had 1 healthy season out of 9. I don't want nobody like that in my quarterback. He's gonna get hurt.
Confident Jimmy will be ready to roll, and
that we felt comfortable with where we were at with Jimmy. And
but everything that's happened since we've signed Jimmy, we knew ahead of time.
But I'm saying, if you've been in the league for 9 years, you only had 1 season healthy, do I want him as my quarterback?
Ladies and gentlemen, Las Vegas Raiders fans, I was about to go on vacation, but some breaking news has occurred surrounding the Raiders quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. In a few hours, I have to be on an airplane, but this video is that important, and I'm gonna tell you guys some details that will have a large impact on what the Raiders' expectations are for the 2023 season, and I'm gonna be honest here, it looks ugly. I do not want my neighbors to complain, so I'm gonna be speaking a little more quietly than usual. Since it's the middle of the night, Mike Florio of NBC Pro Football Talk has finally got his hands on the full contract of Jimmy Garoppolo, which features an addendum that was added after Jimmy Garoppolo failed his physical, which led to his introductory press conference being delayed. And on the day of Jimmy Garoppolo's introductory press conference, when it was delayed, we made a video saying that the only logical explanation is that he failed his physical. And we had a lot of pushback online from different bloggers, Raiders influencers, and whatnot. People saying it's ridiculous, it's a conspiracy theory. Well, just the other day on May 25th, we discovered via The Athletic, it was confirmed for the first time via a press conference by Josh McDaniels this week at OTAs that Jimmy Garoppolo in fact did have surgery after his signing with the Raiders. And the reason why he did have surgery and the reason why that press conference was delayed was because he failed his physical. You have this right here, Ari Miroff repeating The Athletic that his foot was not fully healed and he needed to undergo a procedure, and this is why the press conference was delayed. And now this has been reaffirmed to an even harsher degree, and the fact that people have been saying that Jimmy Garoppolo could be ready by training camp, well, this doesn't even seem likely now. Once we dig into the details, you're going to be left asking yourself, will Jimmy Garoppolo even play for the Raiders at all this season? And there's even a potential cut that could happen. Luckily for the Raiders, they've switched the contract enough to avoid any negative consequences. And it's funny because these reporters who are close with the Raiders have to repeat whatever McDaniels and Ziegler tell them to, whatever Mark Davis tells them to. Well, May 12th, just not only like 15 days ago, they were saying that Jimmy G's contract has been the same since he signed, no restructure. So they're saying that there's been no changes at all. And these writers have also said that the club believes Jimmy will be ready to go the start of the season, and there's been no setbacks, and this was always the expectation. They're not worried at all. There's no shockers that have happened. Well, now we have learned that these writers are either being fed false information or their sources are complete BS and they're full of crap. And so the bombshell that was reported today by Mike Florio is the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo's contract includes a waiver over his foot injury. So Jimmy G had surgery after signing with the Raiders after his press conference, and there is now an addendum in his contract which acknowledges that without this addendum, Garoppolo would not pass the team's physical. So let me just make this perfectly clear for anyone who's confused, and we're going to back it up as we continue to go through this report. Jimmy Garoppolo has not passed a physical since signing with the Raiders. He has not passed a physical. He is not cleared to play. So Jimmy Garoppolo, we know, has pre-existing injuries. He basically has 2 broken bones in his left foot. It's the injury that he suffered towards the end of last season with the San Francisco 49ers. So this addendum is added because he would not have passed the physical for the Raiders otherwise. And in this addendum, they have Garoppolo sign off on the fact that he could risk permanent disability if he continues to play with this injury with the Raiders. And this is because this takes so long to heal, to rehab. The estimated time is quite long, and it's an open question as to whether or not he'll be even ready to go by week 1. And so they have him signing off on all this risk, and that's because there's just such a high chance of re-injury, even if he's able to recover on time to play with the Raiders. So Jimmy Garoppolo has 2 fractures, 2 broken bones in his foot. One is in the medial cuneiform right here, and the other one is in the base of the second metatarsal. So it's all right here for Jimmy Garoppolo, some fractures. And if you want to get specific, the metatarsal is actually continuing to dislocate. The more that he puts pressure on that foot, the more that he walks on it, even stands on it, especially playing football, the separation will continue and this could get worse. And so Jimmy Garoppolo signed signs off on taking all the risks. He waives all claims against the Raiders if he gets even more messed up, even permanent disability in his foot, not able to walk if he continues to play with this injury. This addendum in the contract made himself acknowledge all of these problems that could happen if he plays. It even goes as far as to not give him the option to get a second opinion from his own doctor. He has to go through the team doctor over any disputes regarding this injury. And this is the big kicker, and this is the basis for everything here, and this should make you alarmed if you're a Raiders fan, wondering if everything is going to be okay in this upcoming 2023 season. The contract, this addendum, preserves the team's ability to terminate the agreement with no further obligation for any reason related to the waiver and release attached as Addendum G. The waiver becomes null and void if at any time Jimmy G passes a physical exam or is active for at least one regular season game and does not suffer re-injury to his left foot in the manner described of Addendum G. So let me break down this bull. Basically, they don't have to pay him unless he passes a physical. He's technically not signed unless he passes a physical. And Mike Florio puts it in plain language here. He won't get any of his salary until he passes a physical, and the Raiders can cut him for any reasons related to Addendum G, meaning any reasons related to that left foot. We know he originally had a bonus, but that has been converted to a salary. So Jimmy G basically has, no guarantees in his contract, especially when it comes to his foot. And until this guy passes a physical, until he does that, he is currently not the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. And this is why the press conference was delayed. This is why they basically lied via omission, not telling us exactly what was going on. It's because they knew that this was completely embarrassing and humiliating. The fact that they could not even sign a quarterback after moving on from the franchise QB Derek Carr. I know I'm not supposed to mention his name, but hey, this kind of makes that look a little worse. And then Florio goes next level, and I was shocked when this guy says this because, he is a Raider hater, but he is always kind of nice to McDaniels. And he says, and it underscores the possibility that Garoppolo might never play for the Raiders. He might never get paid a penny by them. So the Raiders straight up do not have a quarterback right now. And Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler have known that this has been a problem since they renegotiated this contract with Jimmy Garoppolo during free agency prior to his real introductory press conference, not the delayed one in which they found this crap out. To me, this really just shows how incompetent the Raiders are. Dave Ziegler is the general manager and Josh McDaniels. It's one thing to move on from a quarterback, but you better make sure you have yourself a replacement. And it seems like their staff, their medical staff, their evaluators were so incompetent that they were not able to recognize the severity of Jimmy Garoppolo's injury prior to signing him. And there is no doubt that this came as a complete shock, and they ended up changing his contract because they did not expect this to happen. And so even though I respect some of our favorite reporters, well, this statement they made here, Jimmy G's contract has been the same since the day he signed no restructure, May 12th, just 15 days ago, like we stated earlier, is bullshit. And look, this is a big year for Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. They had a losing season last year after taking over a playoff team and adding Devontae Adams. That's never good. And now they don't have a quarterback. Oh wait, don't worry. They still have Brian Hoyer. That guy, he's pretty awesome, right? And this makes sense that the Raiders signed Brian Hoyer. They signed him to a 2-year contract. And if you look at the contract, it's pretty much fully guaranteed, about $5 million. That's good money for this guy at 38 years old. And it makes sense that they signed him April 4th. You find out about Jimmy Garoppolo, you're like, yikes, what am I going to do? Well, they signed Brian Hoyer just in case. But no one was really expecting Brian Hoyer to play, right? He's clearly just going to be a guy in the QB room, maybe teaching somebody like the new rookie Aiden O'Connell, who's rocking Derek Carr's number 4 right now. But it looks like Brian Hoyer might have to put the clipboard down and pick up the pigskin because it seems like we're going to need this guy. Some people will tell you, oh, don't worry, Jimmy Garoppolo will be fine. He'll be ready to go by training camp. And if not, hey, it's great. The Raiders don't have to pay him anything. Well, guess what? If you look at the timeline of what it takes to recover from the type of injuries that he has sustained, the type of surgery he's recovering from, this guy might, and I mean might, be ready to go a couple weeks before training camp. But the chances of re-injury are very high. And every single week that he's not practicing, every single week that he's still rehabbing, rather than just spending some time getting some reps with Devontae Adams, the team is getting weaker by the second. And like we said March 16th when we suspected that this happened, if Jimmy Garoppolo fails his physical, then this will go down as a new low for genius Josh McDaniels and the Raiders. And at this time, it was a big if still. Even I second guessed myself based on all the pushback I got. And it does suck for Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not his fault. He's just a player out there trying to make some money, trying to get a deal. trying to play. But unfortunately, he has these injury issues, and Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler should have at least attempted to address this in a draft with a high pick. They should have maybe even used their first round pick on a quarterback. They knew this was the case during the draft, and they've decided to go ahead and go with Jimmy Garoppolo. And now the Raiders are left with no options. Brian Hoyer, we know he's a clipboard guy. He's not really supposed to play. Aiden O'Connell's a 4th round pick for a reason, even though I think the guy has a good arm, and I think eventually over time, maybe he could be a starter or a solid number 2 quarterback in the NFL. I really do think he has that upside. But at this point, when you're looking at this season, if the Raiders really want to win now, if you want to make that guy Davante Adams pretty happy, who even though he says he loves McDaniels and everything's a-okay, he said his comments initially for a reason, and I don't think this new news about Jimmy Garoppolo that happened today is going to excite Davante Adams. And so now the Raiders are in shambles, and it seems like our only hope right now is the guy, Brady, Botox Brady, the guy who this franchise has disliked for many years. Well, now he owns part of your favorite football team, and it seems like our only hope at having a decent season this year hinges on him maybe coming and suiting up with the Raiders and being a partial owner and quarterback at the same freaking time. And I know this sounds like clickbait BS and whatnot. Oh, Brady returning to the Raiders. Oh, we've heard that BS a lot. But here's the thing, McDaniels and Ziegler, were they banking on Brady and then Garoppolo was the B plan? Who knows? Is Brady playing games with them? But if Brady wanted to play with the Raiders this year, he could do it while being an owner, but the rest of the owners would have to vote on it. And he still needs his minority stake ownership in the Raiders to be approved. They're supposed to vote on that in October, but there will need to be an additional vote if he wanted to be an owner/player. Now, would these owners sign off on that? Would they be against it? Many people, including Mike Florio, who we mentioned earlier, believe that the owners would sign off on this, and it makes a lot of sense because no matter what, Brady is going to give you big ratings, fill in seats at your stadium, even if you're an opposing team, and he will generate more money for these owners if he's on the football field. So it's all up to Brady. Personally, I think he rejected this job in the first place. I think McDaniels and Ziegler wanted this guy. He said no. He either thinks the Raiders aren't good enough or he's really just too old at this point and he's hanging it up. Because if he really wanted to play for the Raiders, he could have signed with them in March. He could have done it totally. And then we would have been able to recruit a lot of free agents really easily because they'd be like, yo, I want to go join Brady's team. They're probably going to get a ring. The refs love to help Brady out. So I don't think he's going to do it now. I think if Brady would have done it, it would have been in March. The team would be better. He'd have more time connecting with his guys. So I think it's too late for Brady, but it is a possibility if the owners approved it. What can the Raiders possibly do at this point? What are their options? Are they really going to try to have a winning season with Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer at quarterback? Even if Jimmy Garoppolo came back, could he even last a full season if he can't even really walk right now? And is the best option for them to tank for Caleb Williams? A lot of people saying, hey, they could tank for Caleb Williams. That'd solve everything. That'd be great. Well, Mark Davis has been telling us all these past few years that it's not a rebuild. Is Mark Davis going to be happy with that? Or is he cool with that? Is he really going to be cool with the Raiders, with Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels having 2 losing seasons back to back? They lost close games last year and they gave up an unprecedented amount of blown leads. They literally broke the record in NFL history of giving up blown double-digit leads. So in my opinion, they tanked it last year and now they might have to tank it this year as well. Last year, to me, and this is my opinion, it was a subtle tank, and this year seems like they're forced to tank. It's going to happen right before the whole entire NFL world's eyes. And are some of our star players going to be happy about that? Is Davante Adams going to be happy about that? Is Josh Jacobs going to be cool with that? How would Max Crosby feel about that? And I really hope the Raiders have a backup plan. I thought, man, does McDaniels have something up his sleeve? Is there something he knows that maybe we all don't know? But now that the truth is coming out, now that we're finding out more about the Raiders situation, it seems like our front office might actually be that incompetent. I guess it makes sense why Davante Adams does not see eye to eye with them right now. Let me know how you guys feel about this in the comments below. I gotta go catch a flight right now. We'll keep you up to date on everything happening with the Raiders on this channel. WiFiWillie Raiders. Peace out, everybody, and I hope you have a good one.